Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Graham Tait, and I am the head of primary here at GEMS International School, Tropicana Metropark. A warm welcome to you. If you are existing parents, then hello. I hope that you're keeping well. If you're a prospective parent who's thinking about joining our school community, a warm welcome to you. The focus of my talk today is to just explain a little bit about GEMS as a British international school and why it is a true British international school. I'll be sharing a little bit about the British education system and what British class teachers do in the primary setting, and also what a typical British primary school lesson would look like. So thank you very much for joining, and I will start by really just giving you a little bit of information about me. I've been with GEMS International School here for since January. One thing that I am completely confident with is that it is a British school. We are set in wonderful Malaysia, but we are a British-based education. I'm very confident saying that because I've been based in British primary education since 1999. I trained as a primary school teacher in England in 1999, a primary specialist, and for 16 years I was a full-time teacher. This is my third primary headship. I've taught from year 1 to year 6. And I'm lucky enough to taught in England, but also in Vietnam, in Malaysia, in Morocco, and Azerbaijan, all in British international schools or schools in England. Of those schools, some big, some small, all of them have been members of the Council of British International Schools. I've gone through inspections in England as part of Ofsted. I've worked in schools that are part of FOBASIA. And I've gone through inspections in British international schools with British schools overseas. So I hope I'm qualified to say and recognise when I see a British school, and what I see at GEMS Tropicana Metropark is the real deal. It is a British school. It really starts from early years. The curriculum as such is the early years foundation stage, and the children are assessed against early learning goals which come from England. When the children get a little bit older and move into year 1, they take part in 2 curricula that we offer here. We have the Cambridge primary curriculum, and we have the national curriculum from England. And what you'll see is these curricula are from the UK, and they give the children a sound grounding as a British education. You will see that the national curriculum for England and Cambridge are used by hundreds of international schools, British international schools across the world. The advantages they have for your child is that they're very ambitious in their expectations. And what it does is that your child will be competitive globally. We are in a global economy. Children travel and families move. It's important that you feel assured and confident that your child can move from country to country and have a quality education, and that's what a British education affords your child. Aside from having a smooth relocation, it's important that your child is involved in an education system that is respected across the world, not only for its standards, but also for its integrity and the validity of the results. And a British school like GEMS Tropicana Metropark will offer that for you. What you'll see is that the curriculum in the British curriculum, one of the biggest strengths is that it offers a clear framework for what has to be learned by your child, but critically, what standards the children need to attain by a certain age. As you would expect, the curriculum is broken down into subjects. Each subject has published learning content, and that published aspect is really important because parents, you need confidence that you know what your child is going to be learning from year to year, and you need to be involved in the learning process. Each year is broken down into terms, and the terms will be broken down into short segments of learning and themed learning, which are called units. For example, in primary school, very often in a term, English is broken down into 10 weeks, and 4 weeks would be perhaps studying non-fiction. 4 weeks might be fiction, and then 2 weeks might be poetry or play scripts. Some of the learning objectives are specific to the units being studied at the time, and some of the objectives are ongoing and happen continuously. For example, spelling, punctuation, calculations, speaking, listening. These are sort of things that children are assessed on and grow continually, and they're not specific to a specific unit. Clear learning outcomes are important. It's important because the children need to know what standards they need to attain to. It's important for parents because they need to know what the children are learning. And obviously it's important for schools because we do have accountability. We want to make sure that every teacher and every class gets a high quality and equal quality of education. The high standards that are stipulated allow you to gauge your child's progress. And we share your child's progress with termly reports, with regular parents' evenings. What we do like to do at GEMS International School is we encourage a face-to-face approach. If you want to know about your child's learning, if you have questions, do make an appointment to meet with your class teacher. We're very happy to do that. And meeting face-to-face is much more effective and warm than doing it by email. So any existing parents or prospective parents, it's important to us that you feel that you're informed in your child's learning, and that face-to-face personal touch is very important to us and a feature of a British school. The British schools are accountable for our performance, and by having a very clear curriculum and framework, that empowers parents to challenge us and with our performance. And we are quite happy for that to happen because parents who are challenging us are parents who are involved. And involved parents are a massive asset, and we welcome your input. I'm going to go on now in terms of describing some of the features of a British education. Very often people have an image of British education that's probably formed from things like Harry Potter movies, where we see boarding schools and children wearing different types of uniform. That can be true, but it can also be a little bit of a dated model. So I'm going to just explain a little bit about the British education system, because if you are considering joining us, it's very important that you understand what it is you would be getting for your child if you were to join our family. The main thing is to understand that we, as a British education, we concentrate on something called rigor. And what rigor is, well, it's an often used word and not often understood. It means we're careful, we're thorough, and we're demanding. We believe that learning should be challenging. It should be carefully planned. But the main thing is that it's not good enough just to cover a curriculum. We want your child to master it. I'll give an analogy of driving a car. When you pass your test, you might have a license to drive a car, but I dare say you're probably not driving it to your full capacity yet, or with full confidence, and certainly not making it work for you in an everyday setting. We want our children to learn, and we want them to enjoy their learning, but we also want them to be able to master the skills and the knowledge that they have so that they can use it and apply it to help their everyday lives. So with rigor, what we're looking at is a thorough education, not just coverage of our paper curriculum. We're talking about children mastering the skills and knowledge that we cover in class and in school. If you join and allow your child to join GEMS Tropicana Metropark, then what you're committing to is a cycle of continuous improvement. We do expect every child to do their personal best. The personal best of some children in maths might be different for other children. Some children might be more naturally active or sporty. Some children might prefer drama. Some children might be naturally more talented in art. But we expect all children to take part, and we push all children to do their personal best. We want children to be all-rounders. We want them to have a wide range of skills, but that doesn't mean that we want them to be average. If they have a genuine talent, we want to nurture that talent and ensure that children achieve their best. We expect children to come to school prepared and ready to learn. We do have rules for behaviour so that all children can be happy, safe and successful. We expect children to be punctual and have a high rate of attendance and wear the school uniform. We set a quick pace, which is a feature of a British education, and we do sensitively extend children out of their comfort zones. We don't want to traumatize children, but we do want them to tackle things that are challenging and difficult. That's how we develop as people. By reverting to the things that we can already do and comfortable with are not stretching us. Tackling things that are difficult is actually something that makes us grow and a feature of a British education. So we encourage risk-taking and we encourage children to make mistakes. And we're honest with children that when they learn, if they're challenging themselves, they will make mistakes. And that this is okay if we learn from them. We want people to try, learn, think, revisit, and do better. Another part of this is that when we do this, we are part of a team. Sometimes we'll work individually and we will have individual success, and we will celebrate that. But a feature of a British education is that you will also work very often. It looks like the connection was lost temporarily, such is technology. I will wait for people to rejoin. Apologies, there is not much I can do. I suspect that with so many people being working from home, that it might have affected the number of people and the quality of our connection. I will carry on because I hope that even though there's the delay, you will be able to get the gist of what I was saying. I was talking about rigor, and I was talking about failure, and I was talking about persevering and rigor. So I will carry on in that vein. I can see that many people have joined us. Again, there is about a 20-second delay, just so you're aware. So if I don't respond immediately to you, that's what's happened. But I was talking about rigor in the British education system. I will carry on in that vein. I'm talking about failure, and it's not something that we are looking at in a negative way in the British school. It's better to aim high and maybe not succeed the first time than to aim low and hit it first time and never really achieve your potential. And the British education system is very much about that. It's about looking at setting high dreams, aspirations, and then really going for it. And if you don't get them first time, then persevering and keep on going and trying and getting better until eventually you achieve something that you couldn't do before. That is a major feature of the British curriculum. The things that you need to know about our school is that with rigor, it's not just the children that are expected to be thorough, it's also the teachers as well. A feature of a British school is that we plan lessons based on evidence that we collect about what your child can do and what they can't do yet. We teach, not just in one way. One of the wonderful things about the British education system is that the teachers have a flexibility to teach in a way that suits their class. All children are different. All classes are different. What works from one year to the next has to change because the personality and the learning styles of the children changes too. To take a curriculum that's written centrally by a government and then to try and apply it to every child in a country, I think it's inevitable that some able children will be frustrated because it's too easy, and some children who find it too difficult will become frustrated. So the flexibility of the British curriculum allows teachers to tailor the curriculum to their class, but significantly to the learning styles of individual children. We assess regularly. Assessment for many parents means exams. We don't do a lot of public exams in primary school. What we do is we talk with your child, we monitor their written work, we set them tasks, and we look at their learning, and we closely monitor what they can and can't do and what they find difficult and what they find too easy. That type of formative assessment, as it's called, is something that isn't just for the teachers. A feature of GEMS International School is we want your child to take responsibility for their learning. And that means that we share the assessments with them. We tell them where they are, what they can do, what they're struggling with, and what they need to do next to get to the next level. That is a feature of a British education, and it is very much a feature of a British school. After planning and teaching and assessing, then we communicate. That information is very valuable to parents. If we want you to be working in partnership with us, we do need to share that with you, and that is something that we do. The process is important because that involvement from children in their own learning is really important, because some children sadly view school as something to sign off when they're 16 and to stop learning, as if learning something is something that happens in a school and doesn't happen outside of school. But of course that's not true. We learn all the way through our lives, or at least we should. So by getting children interested in their own development and taking responsibility for their own learning, what we're actually teaching them is self-reliance, but we're making them lifelong learners, which basically means that we want them to carry on learning and improving throughout their lives. And by involving them in their own progress at an early age, that means that they have a mindset that they have a responsibility for their own development. One of the most important things we do in primary school is we expose children to the wider world. We don't specialize yet. That's something that children will do as they get older and choose IGCSE options and A-level options, and indeed university courses. But in primary school, we're exposing children to a voyage of discovery, which is why it's a broad curriculum. But one of the most important things we do, of course, is that we turn children on to learning. We want children to enjoy learning, because if they enjoy learning, they will go into secondary school with the right attitude to succeed. If we turn off children at an early age, then of course when they get to secondary school, it's very likely that they're not going to enjoy it, they're not going to engage, they're not going to do their best. If you do some work on the British curriculum, and if I dare say, if you look up Google, or you look at other websites, you will see that the British curriculum is characterized by two words, and this is breadth and balance. What that means is that some curricula really prioritize certain subjects only. It might be maths, English and science, and maybe a language, and that's about it. The British curriculum goes beyond that. We do not have a hierarchy of subjects. We do have core subjects, English, maths and science, but we do not place them or communicate that those subjects are superior or more important than other subjects. It wouldn't be right, and we do not say that maths is more important than art, or English is more important than drama. That would be wrong. It could be that within our school we have the next generation of artists or sports people, singers, dancers. It would be very wrong of us to state that their passion is somehow inferior or not as important to society as other jobs and other vocations and other types of learning. So we don't do that. In primary school, the children have will study visual arts, performing arts, drama, art, sculpture, physical education, humanities, history, geography, social sciences, computing and technology. They will cover sciences, chemistry, biology, physics. The language we offer, we have Mandarin Chinese, French, Malay. Maths is studied. One of the most important subjects to British education is something called personal social health education. What we're doing there is we're teaching children about their own emotions, about their responsibility as citizens, about how to interact in a society and how they affect others. We teach them about their own bodies, we teach them about their own health, how to stay healthy both physically and mentally. And this is something that's indicative that in a British education, what we're interested in is developing your whole child. We'd like them to have high exam results, but actually what we want them to do is become functioning, good, caring, productive people, so when they're adults, they can make a positive contribution to society. I'm going to go on now to explain a little bit about the balance in terms of what is, aside from academics, what is it that our GEMS International School, what we actually offer. Because we do offer academic rigor. There is no doubt that good exam results is a passport to opportunities in life. And if you don't have good exam results, then you're at a disadvantage. And we want every child to choose a pathway and empowered to do that. We don't want children just to go to university. We want them to go to the university of their choice. We don't want children to enter the workplace and forced to do a job they don't want to do. We want them to have a choice, something that they're passionate about, something that they feel strongly about, something that they would enjoy and find fulfilling. Good exam results do that. But a British education isn't just about exam results. If you want an education that's more rounded, then it might be we are right for you. For example, talking about PSHE, we in primary school, we're very interested in developing children's soft skills, how to communicate, how to share, how to compromise, how to socialize with others, how to share their ideas, to form an argument and an opinion, how to counter another person's point of view, or importantly these days, to judge what's real, what's fake, what's right, what's wrong. These soft skills are so important to anyone. Not many people live their lives in isolation or work on their own. So having these key skills at an early age is very important. We teach children about physical health. We want our children to live long and happy, successful lives. We teach them about healthy living, about the benefits of exercise, what foods to eat, what foods that we eat in moderation. We do that through science and PE. More importantly these days, children are under increasing amounts of pressure, maybe more so than when we were children. So mental health and teaching them about their rights, how to cope with stress, how to prioritize a workload, how to have an outlet to their feelings, such as through art and sport and drama. We cover that in a British education system. There is no doubt that your child will travel. We want children to be able to do so and enjoy it. And to do that, it means that they have to have a global mindset. We teach children in primary school how to have respect for their own culture, but also for the culture of others. We encourage them to be curious about people who are different from themselves. We want them to be open-minded to people's different cultures, to diversity, to different heritages, while respecting their own heritage as well. And of course, we do languages. The aim of GEMS International Schools, we want our children to be future leaders. That doesn't mean political leaders, although it might. It means we want them to champion causes such as environmental awareness, to have a conscience, to care about other people in the community, to contribute, to provide a service, to work for others. We want them to be successful individually, but we also want them to make a positive contribution to society as a whole. Well, these are all very lofty aims. How do we achieve this? Quite simply, a lot of learning that happens in our school doesn't actually happen in the classroom. A lot of the powerful learning that we do actually takes place outside the classroom. That might be a surprise. Now, I'm not saying the classroom isn't important. Of course it is. The academic lessons, that's where children learn essential skills, numeracy, reading, writing. But if you think about your own education, I dare say that some of your most powerful memories come from maybe the stage, the sports field, maybe off campus on a residential trip or a day trip. A lot of learning happens outside of the classroom. And that is something that is a key feature of a British school like GEMS Tropicana Metropark, is that it's not just about academic lessons, it's about a whole learning day and experience. So what do I mean by that? Well, let me tell you something about co-curricular activities, sometimes called after-school clubs, sometimes called extracurricular activities, and sometimes called enrichment. What we're talking about here is a series of activities that we offer your child, and if your child joined our family, would be doing it as well. It's a wide range of more than 100 activities that your child can do after school. And these will expand into weekends, and as the school grows, into other parts, maybe lunchtimes, and indeed maybe before school. But at the moment they happen after school, and we are talking about things like ballet, karate, karaoke, language learning, sports. This is not childcare, this is learning. It's called co-curricular because it stands alongside academic lessons that take place in the classroom. We know that these experiences instill GEMS values: resilience, care, risk-taking, respect, teamwork, self-reliance, independence. They're not optional extras. They are something we expect all the children to do, because what happens in these co-curricular activities are of tremendous value in developing them as people. Alongside co-curricular activities, of course, we're interested in competition. We're a new school. We are kind of expanding this. We have inter-school competitions. We recently took place in a football tournament at Alice Smith, and we did very well. We have inter-house competitions. We compete with other GEM schools. We have sports days, talent shows, and in the future we will be joining Fobasia. So competition and representing the school team is something that we're very passionate about and will be developing. The performances on stage, our children are currently taking part in preparing for Midsummer's Night Dream production of Shakespeare. Assemblies happen weekly, and we invite year groups and their parents to celebrate the learning that's going on every Friday. Festivals are an important part of our school. I was amazed when I joined the school when we had a Lunar New Year celebrations, and we had an absolutely packed gym full of hundreds of community members and children. And some of our children were reciting poetry and performing music in front of a massive audience. What an amazing learning opportunity in terms of composure and self-confidence building, to be able to perform in in front of such a big audience, and to do it very, very well. We encourage children to enter into leadership and service projects. We have a school council, and the children meet with us, school leaders and teachers, to discuss things that they would like to take place in school, such as recycling projects, environmental projects, community projects. School trips are a huge part of children's development. Recently, our year ones went to see a stage production from a British company of The Gruffalo, a very famous book by Julia Donaldson. To see a live stage company enthralled some of our children. I'm sure that some of them will be inspired to take up drama and maybe become actors in the future. Other trips, we have day trips. Some of our children do things like science. They go to indoor skydiving when they're learning about physics and forces. It's a fun way of compounding learning in the classroom. We have residential trips that children stay overnight, maybe for several nights, and they're placed out of their comfort zone. They have to contend with not being with their parents. It teaches independence, self-confidence, organization, and when they come back, they're different people, okay? And they've bonded as a class. These things are very important in a British school. These are all amazing things, and you might be wondering, how do we achieve it? Well, we do it because we have some amazing primary teachers and primary teaching assistants. The teachers that we have at GEMS Tropicana Metropark are all qualified teacher status, and many of them come from the UK, but not all. But we insist that we take the best. The training that our teachers have had, their initial teacher training, a lot of our teachers knew that they wanted to be teachers from a very young age and chose to do a Bachelor of Education. Some did an initial degree and then decided that they would do a postgrad qualification in education. Many of our teachers have masters in education, but all of them are qualified teachers to teach in their own countries and teaching in the UK. That thorough training is to our benefit, but it doesn't stop when they arrive at GEMS. GEMS spends a lot of time developing teachers in-house and by bringing external training in too. The quality control that we have in school and quality assurance, senior leaders will observe lessons. Senior leaders will set targets to teachers' development. Teachers will observe each other and mentor and learn from each other. And they have a constant cycle of continued professional development to make sure that they stay up to date. And we're very proud of the training that we provide. Recently this year, we've had 2 visits from Cambridge who external ex-head teachers and teachers have come who are employed from Cambridge to assess our teaching, to make recommendations, and we're very glad for their input. some of the questions that people might not understand about British primary teachers is that they are qualified to teach the whole curriculum. That means that, yes, they have a thorough grounding in English, maths, and science, but they can also teach geography and history and music and art. In our school, we have the luxury of specialist teachers, but classroom teachers can teach computing. They can teach PE. Many of our teachers are highly skilled in these and have been leaders for schools at previous schools and coordinated subjects. But of course, we take use of our talents of our teachers. They do collaborate, and year teams are very close-knit teams, and they will work together to take the strength of each teacher and make sure that benefits your child's learning. The primary teacher is qualified to teach across the primary age range, something that surprises parents. They're qualified to teach across the curriculum. We do have specialist teachers because in things like music and PE and computing and art, if we have the opportunity to have subject specialists in primary, then we have chosen to do that because we want to offer an enhanced curriculum. But our primary teachers can do that role if they need to. And many chose to do this through co-curricular activities. The other surprise that some parents have is that teachers can swap year group. I started teaching in year 6 when I was a teacher. And I actually worked from year 6 all the way down to year 1. Teachers like to change year group. It keeps them fresh. They learn new things. It helps their learning. It helps them to develop as teachers. And of course, when you join a new year group, you have to learn the curriculum and familiarize yourself. But teachers are capable of doing that. That's one of the strengths of British teacher training. The biggest asset about having high quality teachers at our British school is that they are not expected to follow the curriculum like it is some sort of restraint or straitjacket. We expect highly trained teachers to know the needs of their class and to adapt the curriculum, making sure it's covered, but teaching it and adapting it for the needs of the children that they have that year. And that is a key strength, and one of the attractive features of working in the British education system is that teachers do have a degree of flexibility that might not be afforded in other systems like the French system or the American system. We're often asked, why don't you just have subject teachers for every subject? Why not have a subject teacher for, say, English or maths? Well, this goes down to the role of the primary school teacher and the British primary school teacher. Because, again, I'll go back to the fact that we are interested in developing the whole child. British teachers are not deliverers of academic content. They are developing young people. They are interested in pastoral care as well as academic standards. So your class teacher, the advantage of having one adult in school who is a guardian for your child, who knows your child, is familiar with your child's personality, their needs, what they like, what they don't like, their friends, their dietary needs, what talents they have. Do they speak certain languages? Do they play musical instruments? Having one known adult who is look after your child, who will champion your child, who will call for support if they need it, who will flag up their achievements, that is something that is central to a British primary school. And we have that here at GEMS Tropicana Metropark. There are no children left behind. Your child will be known by name. There will be an adult who spends extensive amounts of time with them each day, will know about what's going on at home. They will know about the little things that make a difference to young children. They will make sure they get the support they need or the challenge if they are very able of doing things in advance of maybe what's expected for their age. That is an advantage of the primary school system, coupled with the fact that we also have specialist teachers for certain subjects, means that your child gets the best of both worlds. The biggest thing about being a primary school teacher, and I can say that because I am a primary school teacher, is the relationships that we build with your class. And by the end of the year, you become very attached to the children in your class. You almost don't want to give them up because you're proud of them and you have a relationship with them. But having that relationship means that we can personalize learning for children. I know that there are children who are benefiting right now from one-on-one lessons from teachers who are voluntarily going online and teaching individual sessions with children where they need it. That speaks volumes about the professionalism and the care that we offer here at the GEMS International School. I would like to go on and to really say a little bit about how do we ensure that our teachers are the quality teachers that your child needs. Well, we're very fussy as a school about who gets to join our family. I can tell you that when I joined GEMS, the recruitment process was rigorous, and rightly so. We do safer recruitment. We do background checks to check that teachers are appropriate for working with your child, and that they do have the background that they state that they have. And we check their qualifications, and we ensure that what they've said on their resume is exactly what we are going to get. We don't compromise, and we recruit early. The number of teachers that will be arriving next year. We had an enormous amount of applications through the Times Educational Supplement in earlier this year in January and February. Very competitive. Lots of teachers wanting to move to Malaysia, lots of teachers wanting to be part of our school. So we have a strong field, but by recruiting early, we don't compromise. If we have doubts about someone joining our community, then they don't join. We insist upon the best because we want the best for your child. And by recruiting early and having recruited early, top quality teachers from other international schools or direct from the UK, we have an excellent mix of people who are familiar with working abroad, but also people straight from the UK who have got up-to-date practice from the United Kingdom. I'm going to move on now, finally, to what does learning look like in our school? That's a very difficult question to answer, because one of the fun things about working in a primary school is that the day is always varied and they're never the same. And that's the same for lessons. Lessons, even if you teach the same lesson year on year to the same year group, every time it changes. And that's something that I think primary school teachers really enjoy. In terms of what learning looks like in a British school, it probably is very different to what you experienced in your primary school when you were a child. Education does evolve, and it might be that the nature of British learning might surprise you. So I'm going to share a little bit of bits about what you might expect if you were in school and you were observing a class. Certain things always happen. The lesson always begins with a success criteria. We always share with the children, this is what we're looking for. This is what we want to get out of this lesson. If you don't do that, it's kind of like playing football without a goal or sharing the goal with the children, because if the children don't know what they're meant to do, if they don't know the rules of the game or how to win, how to succeed, then there's a good chance they won't. So we have a learning intention start of every lesson where we break down for the children in their own language, in their own terms, what it is they're going to be doing that lesson and why it's important. We then revisit what the children have done previously. We remind them, remember yesterday or last week, remember you did this? This is where you are, this is what we're going to learn next. We tune them into learning. We make clear to children the stages of what they're going to do today, what they're going to do tomorrow, what they're going to do next week, so they understand the process and the journey and where they've got to get to. What you'll find is that the lessons will be broken down into smaller parts. Primary school children cannot concentrate for a full hour at a time. They need to move around, they need variety, they need to learn in different ways. A 1 hour lesson will be broken down into segments, shorter segments, to keep the children engaged, because that variety, that change, those transitions keep the children focused. And that is a feature of primary school. If we didn't do that, and it was the same every lesson, it would get repetitive and boring, and children would not engage, they wouldn't learn. What you will find is that at GEMS Tropicana Metropark is that we're well resourced. The classrooms have the resources teachers need to make children. Children might learn using our interactive whiteboards, they might learn using iPads, they might learn using traditional resources like dice or counters, and they might learn using specific resources for those subjects. But we have a wonderful campus, and you will find that the resources are used in a very bright, dynamic classroom. Our classrooms are colourful, they have displays for each subject, they celebrate learning, they're language rich, we have words everywhere to help children extend their vocabulary and to learn English if they are learning English. You will find familiar routines, which settles children down, gives them a sense of confidence, and saves time during the day. Children like consistency, they like to know where they are. And by having clear routines and expectations and roles, then that calms them down. They know what they can do, what they shouldn't do, and that makes them, that gives them confidence, because children who are stressed simply won't learn. We focus on the positive, not the negative. We have clear expectations for behavior. But one of the big things we do is we differentiate lessons, and that term means, it's quite simply, we pitch the level at different levels for different children, very often in groups. If we're teaching maths, it's highly likely that some children might be at a more advanced stage than others. It would be very wrong of us to teach one activity that was too easy or too hard for some children. So we differentiate, and our primary school teachers are very well trained in this, on how to take one lesson, to have a shared goal, to have a shared theme, but pitching it at different levels for different children. And of course, most of our classes have teaching assistants and other adults and support adults in the school, so that children who need support get it. The focus on a British school is, you will see that every lesson has an element of problem solving and higher order thinking. Higher order thinking is not just recalling facts, remembering facts such as 1 add 1 is 2, is a very low level activity. We are talking about justifying, synthesizing, evaluating, explaining. These are higher order skills. Problem solving, in terms of actually using knowledge and relating it to real life problems, is a key feature of a British school. But what you would be surprised is the amount of talking that children do. We want children to talk. We want them to practice their language, but we're also interested in their opinions. We do not talk at children for an hour with the teacher talking and you listen. That's not effective teaching. We want children to share their ideas, to think, to socialize, to contest, to challenge. You might be surprised that we do invite children to ask questions, and sometimes they will challenge a teacher in a polite way about why an answer is the answer that it is, or why we do that. If a child does that, they're thinking. If a child is challenging, they're interested and engaged. It might surprise you that these are things that we value in our school. We don't tell children off for thinking and for asking questions. When children stop asking questions, that's when they stop learning. We involve student interaction, and one of the key features that surprises parents is that a lot of our lessons involve children working on their own, but very often, and most usually, they'll be working at a table with other people at the table, maybe in a pair, maybe in a large group, maybe as a whole class. That interaction is important. Children are learning from each other, but they're also communicating and socializing and sharing things that they need to do in real life. All of our lessons end with a plenary. We revisit what we've done that lesson, what we did well, and we ask the children, how do you think you did? Did you understand it? Did you not understand it? Do we need to go back? Because that information is crucial. If you follow our school and come into our school, you'll know that a lot of our lessons are noisy and messy. Children are out of seats. And you'll find that very often they are learning outside the classroom. When I teach Year 6 science, for example, very often the children go to the science labs, or they might be outside. For example, recently I did a parachute experiment where we were dropping them off elevated areas of the school to time how long they took to fall to ground. You can't do that in a classroom. So we use our campus as much as we can. What you will find in most lessons is that we have more than one adult. We use technology when we think it has an advantage to learning, and we do make links with other subjects. We do have a curriculum, maths, English, science, humanities, but we try and link subjects together because there's very close links between, for example, science and maths. If we're doing physics, then of course we're using our maths skills, such as graph reading, forming tables, reading data. So why not link them together? And cross-curricular links are something that we do at GEMS Tropicana Metropark very, very well as a British school. Things that we don't do. We don't talk at children for extended periods of time. If we talk at people, rather like I'm doing with you now, if you talk at people for extended periods of time, they switch off. Doesn't matter how interesting the performance, they will switch off. Children are the same. Children have short attention spans. So teachers will not talk at children for the whole lesson. We do not work page by page through a textbook. Some education systems do. I had the pleasure of doing a secondment in an American school once, and it very much was working through a textbook day by day. And there were advantages to that system, but a British system, we do have textbooks. We sometimes dip into them and use them when they're useful, but we like to use the excellent quality training of our teachers. And if a teacher can find a creative, fun way of teaching that is more effective, then that's what we'll allow them to do. A textbook has advantages, but if you were teaching something like Earth and space, well, if you think about it on paper, then a 3D planet, which is a sphere, might look like it's a circle. And that can actually lead to misconceptions. Textbooks can be useful, but we're not a slave to them. And we do use them, but not all the time. You won't see children working in science all the time. They might do if they're doing an extended piece of writing, for example, or they might do a spelling test or something, but generally children are expected to talk. We do not compare students. We do not put them in competition with each other. We want them to be a team. We do not constantly talk about grades and examinations. We want children to be able to take risks without fear of it affecting their grades. We do not make it obvious that children are working at a higher or lower level, like such as SES. To do that, what we're doing, and there's a danger that at a very early age, we're basically saying to children that you are good at something and you're not so good at something. That notion, that fixed mindset is very dangerous, so we try to avoid that. That doesn't mean we're not honest with children, but we don't try to prejudge what they can and can't do. We never share the results in public. And one of the most important things we do is we don't over-support them. We have fantastic teachers and teaching assistants, but children need to learn to do things for themselves. And over-supporting children by doing things for them all the time and over-scaffolding does them no favors at all. So we use adult support, but we make sure that children can do things for themselves as well. A typical lesson, well, what would it look like? Well, to give you an idea, a typical primary lesson would be maybe 40 to 60 minutes, depending on the age of the child. In early years, of course, children's lessons are less formal and more play-based, and children tend to work in smaller groups and elect to do learning as opposed to doing a formal lesson. But when we get into year 1 and above, we tend to move in that direction of something that you would more recognize as a lesson. Every lesson begins with a warm-up, a tune-in, a revisit of prior learning. We share the learning focus for the lesson, and then there will be an element of teacher instruction. Of course, teachers do teach. They will have carpet time when the children on the carpet at the front of the class. They will, maybe for older children, year 5 and 6, they sit at their desks. They will instruct the whole class. They will demonstrate. They will write on the whiteboard. They will use the smartboard. Of course, teachers have to teach and they have to explain new concepts. There is, of course, a place for that. But after 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes max, the children will break into smaller groups. They might work on their own. They might work with a partner. They might work in a team. But they will break off to do teamed and shared activities. Because at some point, they need to have a go on their own and they need to try it themselves. And then most lessons then with a plenary where we ask the children, how did you do? Are you confident? Did you master it? Was it too easy? How are you feeling? because that will feed into the learning that happens in the future. That's a breakdown for you of the three topics I wanted to cover today. I just wanted to mention a little bit about what is it we're doing as a school in terms of our current pandemic, and in terms of what are we doing for parents. We understand that this is a very stressful time for families, and that it's a time of uncertainty for many parents. And it's important that we can do our bit to help you during this time. Things that we have done, we have had a school fee freeze. GEMS hasn't had a tuition fee increase for the 4th consecutive year. If you were to join our community, in fact, we would be paying the same school fees as children who joined in 2017. One of the things we're doing is offering a rebate of 4,500 ringgits for the first 100 students who are registered. What that would involve is submitting an application form, paying the first 500 ringgits, and then you would be part of the first 100 to be eligible for that 4,500 rebate. This rebate is the admission fee, and that you would that you need to pay and take to a Cat 4 assessment when your child is assessed as part of joining the school. This is eligible for children who are joining year 1 and above. Other things we're doing for early years, there's a welcome package for students enrolling to our foundation stage 1, our youngest children, and foundation stage 2. So these are children who are 3 to 5 years old. Nursery and reception, as it's called in many British schools. We're offering a 20% discount, 20%, 20, on tuition fees for up to 2 years. What does that mean? That means it's around about 1,750 ringgits per month. We recognise that having more than one child is an expensive business. When we are offering a siblings discount available for sort of the second child, is a 10% discount, and any subsequent children, if you have a large family, would be 15%. So that's 10% for the second child discount, 15% if you have more than 2 children. In addition to this, we're offering an academic bursary of up to 25% of the listed tuition fee. And that is going up to our inaugural A-level program. So a bursary of up to 25% on the listed tuition fee, and an academic scholarship are available for A-level, the A-level program. Very interested. Thank you very much. We've got about 33 people here. I've done a lot of talking. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do something that's very difficult for me and stop talking and have a look at some of the incoming texts that I have. And if you've got any questions I can answer, I'm very happy to do that. If you need to jet off, I'm very conscious of the fact that you'll be busy. If you would like me to answer individual questions, by all means share your contact details, your email or your number, and I will make a note of that and I will get back to you. But what I'm going to do now is have a look at some of these questions that are coming in. If you're not staying with us for this session, then thanks very much for joining. I've talked for a very long time. If you've stayed with me for the whole session, thank you very much indeed. I hope it's been interesting. I'm just having a look through here. Excuse me while I look through these. I'm getting some feedback, very kind words, thank you. But no specific, we have some questions. Is there an entrance assessment for years 1 and 2? Well, yes, we do assess children to come into school. We do something that's called a Cat 4 assessment. What I would say is that we are an inclusive school. What that means is that we try to accept children from a range of backgrounds, and it is true that we have some children in school who might have additional needs. We can't cater for all needs, but if you're interested in our school and what you've got, what we've had to share today, if you're interested, do contact me or make an appointment to contact with our admissions. But don't think that we are an elitist school where we are not for you. We're not an elitist school. We have a lot of children. The entrance exam, we do have it, but I'm happy to say that the majority of children who take the entrance exam are accepted. So don't let that be put off by that. Come and talk to us, and we'll share more information with you. Because we are a family school, we're a society school, we're a community school, and we welcome children from all countries and all academic backgrounds. How many expat teachers? Well, that rather depends on the staffing at the time. I can't recall an exact figure, but I will tell you that there is a large number of the primary team are expat teachers. And I think I'm right in saying, and I think every year group in primary school, nearly every single one has expatriate teachers. And certainly an aim for next year is that we would do that. But we have a number of teachers from our early years. We have expatriate teachers, year 1, year 2. So we do have local teachers, and I must say they are qualified and they are excellent. And as in most international schools, we have a mixture of local staff. We have some wonderful Malay teachers, but we have, if you look on our website, you will see a breakdown of how many British and international teachers we have. But it is a significant number, and more than half. Hello, hi Mr. Graham. Can you know if school providing training for teachers? Training for teachers, yes, this is something we do constantly. It takes different forms. For example, sometimes some teachers will be trained or have particular strengths in an area. So for example, some of our teachers might have initial degrees in art or drama or English, so they'll very often do specialist training, so they'll do team teaching. At the moment we run a cycle with secondary school where when we run every second week, we do training, and they're really based on what the teachers nominate as something they need. So right now, as you can imagine, there's a lot of emphasis on online learning and learning things like Teams and things that we can use online. We have school leaders will do training. We do online training. We're signed up to various forms. We have training through GEMS. We have maybe experts from GEMS coming to visit us to train us and do in-house training. It might be that we have educational providers online. For example, to give you an idea, we're signed up for a company called Educare. Educare are based in the UK and used extensively by British international schools worldwide. I've used them in 2 or 3 schools. And they offer training, for example, in things like health and safety. For example, for the PE team, it might be things like recognizing signs of concussion. It could be safeguarding, child protection. All these things are very important. In terms of academics, all of our teachers are enrolled in some sort of ongoing course. So, for example, year leaders are involved in, for example, might have mentoring courses or leadership courses or middle leadership courses. Senior leaders don't stop learning. I'm involved in courses at the moment. Some teachers will elect to do their own self-study and might be subsidized to do that. But we also have people who come in-house, and we get experts and employ them to come into school. So, as I mentioned earlier, this year we had experts coming in from Cambridge. So Cambridge, former teachers employed by Cambridge, experts in their field, and they are hired by us. We pay for them to come over to our school, Malaysia, and they share our expertise, and they will train our teachers. And we've had that in English and maths this year. So we do have a heavy commitment to continue professional development, because you're quite right. If teachers don't continue training, they'll get out of date very quickly, and we want them to be up to date. So yes, we do that. Let's have a look. How many students in the class? Well, the limits depend on the age of the children. The maximum is 25 for primary. So the 25 is a number that is very typical of the schools that I've worked in. there is a sort of conception that working, having class sizes of maybe 12, 13, 14, I've done that. Actually, what you do then is you have a bit of a group rather than actual proper class dynamic. You do need a certain amount of children to be a proper class. You want a mixture of strengths, you want a mixture of personalities. It's not necessarily the case of smaller classes, but our maximum is 25, but not many of our classes are actually full. If you wanted a ballpark number, most of our classes are on about upper teens to maybe early 20s, sort of 20, 21, but not many of our classes are full at the moment. I've got a question about Cat 4 testing in terms of admissions. I would encourage you to contact our admissions team about that. They're the experts. Certainly wouldn't want to give you the wrong advice on that one. And then we have a question about COVID. I thought we might. How will teaching change? I don't know if this is a question about learning at home or learning at school. I'm presuming. I think this is a question for online learning. We're constantly evolving our online learning. This is something that's new for us. We're getting better all the time. We're constantly amending our timetables. We're constantly learning from the surveys that we're doing, from the feedback that we're getting from parents. What is clear is that we evolved our learning. When we very much started in the first weeks of providing online learning, I think it's fair to say that we provided an awful lot of learning materials, but maybe not as much teacher-led online lessons. So we've rechanged that balance, and we switched so that the children have and actually see their teacher every day, even from early years. So we've changed that. Very difficult to strike a balance. Some parents do not want much online learning because they're worried about screen time and the children being static for too long. Some parents were very pleased if we duplicated our timetable from class timetable and duplicated it. That would be probably beyond the stamina range of the children and the concentration span. I think what we do is we listen to you. If you have any suggestions, then please do contact us. I hope we are seen as being responsive. When we have changed timetables, we have modified them. We're trying our best to provide support for families online. And I dare say this sort of format, if it's successful today, it might be that we get some of the teachers online to share their expertise. What we're looking at now is moving from a short-term scenario to maybe a medium-term scenario. And I'm very sorry to say that it is entirely possible that we could face future school closures of the second or third waves. I think that's something that all nations and all schools have to be realistic about. And we have things like haze as well. What we're doing as a school is we're actually committing in terms of drawing up two sets of parallel procedures, one for when we're open and one for when we are closed. What we have learned is that if we were to reopen, and we will reopen, if we were then to close another date, hopefully not, of course, there are certain things that we can do better in terms of getting the children's textbooks home, class books home, sending learning resources home, so that it's easier for parents to assist the children at home. So that was something we were very much caught out because we didn't have any notice. It wasn't a planned change. We were literally told one day you need to close, and then we did. So we are interested in getting things right. We are looking at different learning programs to take the onus off of parents, but I think it is inevitable that learning from home is going to it's going to be very testing for parents, and we do understand that if you have more than one child, then it's even more difficult, and we appreciate your efforts. We know it's not easy. I have a child at home, a year one, and I would readily say that it's a lot easier teaching a child in a classroom, a whole class, than it is trying to teach your own child at home. So I do empathise with the situation. But if there's anything that we will be continuing with the surveys, and by all means, if there's anything that you feel that we're missing or that we could do better, please let us know. Okay. I think that that's it in terms of questions. I'm going to have a quick scan to make sure I haven't missed any. I think that's it really. I hope that's covered and been useful. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to close it up now. By all means, contact me if you need, or contact admissions if you need any more information. But delighted to have so many of you listening this afternoon. It's been a pleasure for me. I hope it hasn't been too dull for you. I hope it's been informative. But again, thank you very much for your time. Existing parents, do keep well. I hope the children are healthy. I do hope to see you very soon and that we can get back into school as soon as possible. We do miss you. And for prospective families, I hope this has been a good use of your time. And if you need to learn any more about our school, it would be very helpful if you left your contact details, your email, so that we can get back to you and we can provide any more information that you need. But that's all from me today. Thank you very much for your time, and I bid you a good day, and I hope that you all stay well. Thank you.